You tell me when.
It's where Gen X and millennials meet,
Talking about things that are kinda neat. Sincerely, Elaine and Georgie.
Hello!
Hi.
And welcome to Sincerely, Elaine and Georgie, the podcast.
Dun-dun-dun.
And we are your ghosts.
I love it.
We are your... It's my first time doing this. So we are your hosts,
Yes.
Elaine and Georgie.
Woohoo! I like ghost hosts though because it's kind of like it's like a call to the Haunted Mansion.
It is true, it is.
And I have been bothering you incessantly to get your Disney annual pass.
She has. Almost as if, like, I think you work for Disney. Like, it's a lot of peer pressure.
But I'm a Disney adult. So,
you
basically.
You need to explain to people who are not in Florida what that is.
A Disney adult, if you don't know, there's a stigma against Disney adults, by the way, which I don't like. And it's that we're crazy. And maybe a little, but not in a way that hurts anybody. I saw that. Elaine looked at the camera and was like, a little. I'm crazy, but not because I'm a Disney adult. My craziness stands alone.
Better or worse?
I don't know, but I feel like I needed to at least say it to make an argument for Disney adults. But I have been incessantly asking you to get it, and this kind of feels like maybe it's a sign.
I don't, because I said ghost instead of host.
Ghost hosts.
Ghost host.
They literally say that in the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, I didn't know that. Because I haven't been there 8,000 times like
So when you go into Haunted Mansion, you're not going to mouth the words to like the opening monologue with me? I'm not going to say them out loud because that's annoying to other guests, but I do mouth them.
I've not been to Disney in like 6 years.
Okay, people, weigh in here, please. Let us know. Check us out. You know, go to our Instagram, send us a DM, and let us know at Sincerely the Podcast if Elaine should get an annual pass or not. We will let the people decide. How about that?
We'll let the people decide.
Exactly. But you want to know what? I also don't want to wait that long because this is going to air who knows when.
That is true.
And I want you to get it much before then.
Well, we will inform everybody when I get the pass because I do have intentions of getting it.
Yeah.
But I want to wait until after the summer.
But if you want to peer pressure her on my behalf, I completely welcome like DMs to at Sincerely the Podcast on Instagram, just bullying her until she gets it.
Can we talk about our show?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's actually about.
You did say that you thought I worked for Disney, and it kind of flows into the topic of what we're talking about.
It does, kind of. So our topic today is work ethics, work situations, careers, what we want to be when we grow up.
Yeah, because I'm not grown up.
I'm not either. My knees will tell you a very different story. My knees will be like, girl,
you grown.
We're like 60.
Yeah.
My
it's like
hips
dog
like...
years. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to know something about work for you.
Do you?
Yeah. I want to know, what did you want to be when you were a kid? Like, what was the first thing you ever wanted to be?
It was probably veterinarian. I loved animals. Was that yours?
Yes! Oh my gosh, how funny.
We didn't even discuss this before.
No, we didn't. She'll be like, I have a story. I'm like, don't tell me. I want to know on the podcast.
But we had cats in our backyard when I was young, like 10, 11. And they were like brother and sister cats. And they lived under our trailer, and the lady cat had babies. And then we took the kittens up on like our back porch or back deck, and I like watched them grow up. And I was just like, I want to be around animals my whole life.
Yes. I have a question.
What?
Why did you choose not to be one? Or how long did that last? Because I know sometimes it's fleeting when you're a kid, right?
Probably through elementary school. That was an elementary school thing.
Okay.
Was animals and being outside and blah, 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 that stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was that brief moment where you like steal your mom's like silverware and spoon and like the egg wash brush, and you go in the backyard and you pretend to be like dinosaur bones, and you pretend to be archaeologists. You didn't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, you know, that time in your life when you, like, if it was so... And I'm over here.
Nobody took your mom's, like, stuff, like, kitchen utensils, and pretended they were, like, archaeologist, like, equipment. Okay.
I mean, I think that was very imaginative and fun, and if I had thought of that, I totally would have.
Yeah, my mom didn't appreciate it.
I'm sure she didn't. She's like, the guesty office hose, Elaine. You're like, sorry, I gotta dig up these dinosaur bones.
We got discoveries to be had
in the middle of New York City.
That's funny.
I can't.
So then later, I'm a musician. So
Yeah.
like by the time 4th grade came around, I started playing clarinet. And then by middle school, we moved to Florida and I joined chorus. And I think it was the reaction of everybody hearing me sing that made me go, I should probably do this.
You're like, I'm really good. I should probably be a singer.
I'm better than everybody. No, I wasn't like that. But you know, you get certain attentions and that draws you in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to be, so I always wanted to be a vet. Kind of same as you, where I just loved animals so much. And I always had, like, I never had Barbies or dolls. I always had horses, and like there was this, like, I remember I had this leopard that, like, a leopard stuffed animal that had like a Velcro belly, and when you opened it, like, she would have like kittens or like cubs, I suppose.
Say intestines.
No, intestines and a heart, and you could do
like
surgery. It was like,
I thought you were going with that.
that would be wild. Nowadays, I bet you that exists.
Yeah.
Though. That's crazy. But yeah, like, I always had animals, and I still probably would have been one, even all the way up into middle school. My friends Jessica and Bobby, we all wanted to be vets, and we were gonna start this vet clinic called JGB, Jessica, Georgie, Bobby. Yeah, the JGB Animal Clinic or something like that. I'm sure Bobby will correct me because he always has something to say. Love you, Bobby. If that wasn't it, but for 100%. But then I was just like, I can't put animals down. Like, I will cry with the owners. And I don't know that that's helpful as the vet. Like, the vet is like euthanizing your pet, like breaking down. I just don't see how that's helpful. So, and I can't control my emotions in those situations. And that's not to say that vets are not sad when they're doing that for owners, but I can't control my outward emotion. Yeah. So there's just no way I could have done that. So I nixed that. And then I decided I wanted to be a forensic scientist.
Oh, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, because I wanted to, like, solve crimes and stuff. So, like, I spent...
You were, like, in science. Like, you definitely were, like...
I guess, yeah, actually, I didn't think about that.
And, like, forensic, yeah.
Which is funny because I don't see myself scientific at all. But I guess you're right.
You're just observing.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I wanted to be a forensic scientist. And then I just, like, I just gave that up. That was fleeting. Mm-hmm. And then I knew I wanted to be in theater or music in some capacity because I had always loved that as like a hobby, right? I had always been in choir and that kind of stuff. But I was too nervous when it finally came time for college. I was too nervous to admit that to anybody. And so I went into college for teaching, for education. Because I was like, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, summer vacation, spring break. Like, wait. Yeah. And then I spent one singular semester doing it, and I had to do, like, in-person, I had to go be in a classroom with kids, and you had to do it for, like, all kinds of ages, but I started with the younger ages, and I was with, like, 4 and 5-year-olds, and I just realized within the first hour that I hated it, and that it was not for me. I was like, this takes a special kind of person, and I am not that person. I was like, I do not.
Very honest, though.
Yeah. I did not want to be around them. So I secretly auditioned for the theater department. I didn't tell anybody. Not a single soul. Not my parents. Nobody. Because I was so scared that if I didn't get in, that I was going to have to tell people I didn't get in. Yeah. So I auditioned, and I did get in. And then I did that. And then I ended up and then I was too scared to perform. So I just went the stage management route.
I was going to ask you, like, how did you end up?
Yeah, because I wanted to perform. That had always been my goal and my dream. But I got too nervous. And so I was like, stage management is a safe way to still be involved in theater and in the arts. Yeah. At, like, a safe distance for me, right? Like, where I'm not emotionally damaged at the end of it.
That's so terrible. That makes such a terrible narrative.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. So then I did that, and I ended up in entertainment management. So I think I just told you my whole life story of careers.
You did. You went all the way through.
I went all the way through because I feel like it all ended up kind of tying together. But what was your journey like?
Well, let's segue into, like, first jobs. And
okay.
Then we'll go into that because my first job had nothing to do with what I really wanted to do.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Of course, everybody babysat growing up, but so I don't count that.
Did you hear me?
You're like, I hate children. But I think my first job was I worked at Little Caesars.
I love that.
And I started with, my brother worked there, and that's how I kind of got the job. But I was super young. I was like,
you're a Nepo baby.
14 when I started. Like, you could work at 14.
Yeah.
And so it was just like basic. You only work a couple hours. You know, you couldn't do a lot. But I did that, but I stayed there for like a year or 2 years. And then they eventually, they kept throwing me up on cash register, and they kept putting me with people because I'm a really good people person. Like, I can talk people out of things and calm them down. So whenever there was a customer service issue, it was like, Elaine could deal with it.
Really?
And
At 14?
I was like 15.
Oh
yeah,
my
15,
God.
16. And I am talking to these adults going, it's okay. We're going to remake your pizza. Have a drink. It's okay. It'll be fine, you know. And they entrusted me with the cashier. They always put me on cashier. Because apparently that's the only one who can count.
Yeah. You're the only one that can count?
I'm exaggerating. I'm being a little bit mean to my fellow employees at Little Caesars.
Yeah, I'm sure they're listening and they're going to be real offended.
Oh, that Elaine. From like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
But then I worked at United Artists Movie Theater, which I love that job. I was a box office, again, dealing with the money.
Yep.
And dealing with the people.
Yep. Yep.
And my dad loved movies, and he loved me working there because he could go watch movies for free.
Yeah.
And my dad would like come in on Saturday morning and stay all day and watch movies.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, but that's the vibe. I'd do the same.
Yeah, he loved me having that job.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So yeah. What
That's
was
my
your
dream.
first job?
My first job was at 15, and I worked for Cold Stone Creamery.
Oh, you were to Cold Stone.
Yeah, which is it's an ice cream shop where you mix ice cream on a cold slab in front of you. And it was a lot of fun. I made a lot of friends. Actually, one of my best friends now I met her through there. And it was a lot of fun. I feel like it was a good group of kids because it was all of us the same age working. And it just kind of felt like hanging out. But we were getting paid.
Yeah.
And I got to take home a free ice cream after every shift.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what size? They gotta have it, gotta love it.
I think I was supposed... So the sizes there, it's kind of like Starbucks, where they can't just call it small, medium, large.
Yeah.
So they have to call it like it, love it, gotta have it. And I think it was supposed to be a like it, but I think we all took gotta have it. So
you're like, nobody's
we
watching.
said literally whatever. We're in Miami, there are no rules.
That should be welcome to Miami, #. There are no rules.
But really, truly, there aren't. So, and then after, I feel like I worked in food, like the food industry so much. Because I also worked like at a mom and pop grocery shop. Did you have any other jobs?
I did. I went to college, and then I was able to come back in the summers and still work at the movie theater.
Nice.
They would let me come back in the summers. But then once I finally broke from that, then I was all in clerical or secretary. So like I worked work study on the college campus where you work for some of your tuition. But I was a receptionist for the communications department and mainly some other departments too, but mainly there. And then then in my later college years, I was a night auditor for Ramada Inn Hotel, which again was counting money.
Oh my gosh!
That's all I've done.
What the heck?
Deal with money. But I would work third shift from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. and then I would go to school all day because I was paying my way through school. So I had, I had help. My parents, of course, were supportive, but they didn't have money to pay for my tuition. Right. So I was on I was like half student loans and then half I was just paying my way.
Oh my gosh, that's commitment.
Yeah.
Holy guacamole.
So I did that, and then that shifted into, I worked for, then once in my last year, I broke up with a man, and it kind of devastated me, and I bailed on my last, semester of college. Not even last year, just, the last, all I had was, a senior recital and, one or two little things to fix or, complete in college to get my degree, and I just was an emotional basket case, so I bailed. And I went and the general manager made me the sales and marketing manager for Ramada, and I'm 20.
Whoa,
21 kid. But I learned so much in that job about how to run a business and how to deal with advertising, and it was like a crash course on business. Yeah. And I still say that's providential because I then in turn actually running my own business. Most of the skills I got came from that. No way. Year of doing that job.
Oh my gosh.
And I was good at it.
Yeah. I feel like. And there's something to be said there for experience versus, right, education, because it just really depends on the field that, obviously I don't want a doctor who hasn't gone to school. No offense. But, for things like that, it's,
Yeah, of course.
It's, I feel like experience is is
Absolutely.
key.
Because then, just to make it all short and sweet, I then worked for sales for Alltel, GT Mobile and Alltel, which was cell phones, and that was back before digital existed. So these are analog phones,
Yikes.
bag phones, the NEC phones,
Dang.
those kinds of things, and they were just shifting. They just shifted over to digital.
Bulky.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. It's definitely a Gen X thing. You millennials have no idea what I'm talking about. But again, I was in sales and marketing, and I was really good at it. I had high commissions. I was always top of the list. And then I eventually went back, finished my degree, which that was my true love, which was music. And then gradually worked in both fields for a while until I got sustained myself enough, and then opened my own teaching studio, and that was it.
Oh my gosh. So really that's been, your teaching studio has been kind of it as far as your creative.
22 years I've had the business. 22 years.
Wow. And to think that so much of the skills you gained from that Ramada.
It was like a quick, from the...
That's crazy.
And also just doing it. I think this is a little plug for running your own business, is just do it. Yeah. Like, you're never going to know. People don't do it because they're afraid of it. They don't know how to, like, deal with taxes and deal with this and deal with that. You'll figure it out. Yeah. If it's something you love, you'll do it and you'll never regret it. Yeah. So.
I love that.
But that's kind of the quick fire.
I love it.
How did you get from college to career to now?
Well, like I said, I worked at Cold Stone. I worked at a mom and pop grocery shop. This was all in high school. I worked retail, which I hated. Oh my God, I hated it. I literally quit so fast. It was the worst, 2 months of my life. I was just not made for retail. It takes, again, same as with teaching, it takes a special breed. Yeah. And I appreciate all the retail workers out there because I'm not going to do it. And I worked for an accountant for a minute. Really? Yeah, my friend Bobby, who I was going to open the vet clinic with, his mom was an accountant. Oh, and somehow she offered me a job. And she was great to me. For my zero experience. Yeah. And what I was bringing to the table, she was very giving, in pay, and she was good boss. But, so that was good for a while I was in college and doing rehearsals, stage management and stuff like that. That worked out well in college. And then, I got out of college, I just got my first stage management job with a traveling theater, little troupe doing an anti-bullying campaign, across schools across Florida. And we did that for a while. And then I just bit the bullet and moved to Orlando because I knew that I was too much of a homebody to try to go to New York or California or anywhere out Georgia, where all of the entertainment stuff is happening. And Orlando is only 3.5 hour drive from my hometown of Miami. So I was like, let me just go to Orlando. I know there's all the theme parks and I can do entertainment there. So I started at Nickelodeon, and then I was an entertainment supervisor there. And then I moved over to Universal and I did entertainment management there. And then I went to Disney for a hot piping 2 weeks before I got laid off because of the pandemic.
Yay, pandemic. Oh.
And then I found a work from home job because I realized, I loved entertainment, but I feel like entertainment, you definitely have to give up a lot to work in entertainment, because the parks and entertainment, they're not closing on the holidays. Yeah. They're not closing on the weekends. Yeah. They're not closing on your loved ones' birthdays. So I gave up a lot for a long time. And even working in customer service growing up, all of those things were also open on the holidays and on weekends. And so I feel like from the age of 15 all the way until I was 20, all the way until I was 30. So for 15 years, I was always giving up weekends and holidays and having to pick and choose what holidays I wanted to be with my family and stuff like that. And so I was fortunate enough to find a work from home job. And I was like, you know what, my life outside of work is more important to me than my life in work. And so I just made that decision to maybe work in a field that I'm not as passionate about as entertainment, but I like the job, I like the people, I like the company, and it offers me flexibility that I have never had before. Yeah. And so these last 2 years have been incredible. Being able to live you know what I mean? Yeah. Just being able to travel in a way I've never been able to, being able to be at home for every life event that I want to be home for, being able to be off on the weekends. I don't know, it's just a game changer for me. So I would say, I feel like I wanted to ask you what your favorite job was, and I feel like this kind of, ties into that. Yeah. But I don't know that I have I don't know that I could answer a favorite job because they've all been my favorite for different reasons.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a favorite?
I have not in the context that I think that question is being asked. Like,
yeah.
I think exactly what you said. I think I have enjoyed the jobs I've had when I've had them because of the season of life I was in at that moment.
Yeah.
And the things that were important to me, just like you were just saying,
Mm-hmm.
different points of our life, we have different priorities.
Yeah.
And those jobs, you know, either serve or don't serve those priorities. But
Yeah.
I think that probably the most thing that I've done that I've enjoyed the most. I don't even that's difficult to answer. Like,
right?
I love teaching. Teaching will always be a part of what I am.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that you can take everything else away from me, but don't take that away from me. Because I think that's my foundation.
Yeah.
Right?
You have a calling for it, for sure.
And even though I have ups and downs, every job has pluses and minuses. But that's the sustainable thing, part of me, right? So, but I would say something that I really, really enjoyed was when I started writing shows and being more creative.
Yeah.
That, and then in turn started a production company because of that. So that becomes another quote unquote job.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed that because that was a job that was play.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, and yes, I was able to make some income, from it, but I really enjoyed that season of my life. I think.
It was a job, but it was also a creative outlet for you.
Yeah, and it was a way to be expressive and to do it in a sustainable way. And I think for me, I enjoy problem solving.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm good at, like, calming people down and things like that, because it's problem solving. It's getting people from point A to point B in a healthy way. And that's what teaching is, and that's what customer service is, and I think it speaks to that. I enjoy that element.
I see people are definitely a focal point of your work.
Yeah.
No matter
I've
what.
always been.
Yeah, exactly. No matter what you've been doing, it just kind of seems like that.
So something that runs similar to something you said, I taught right out of college. I taught middle school chorus.
Oh boy!
For one semester, and was like, nope. I was like, we're gonna teach a private. We're gonna teach private music lessons because that's not for me.
Someone else can have these kids.
It
takes. I'm not kidding. It takes a special breed. Oh my gosh!
Holy moly! I dodged emotional bullets the whole day, especially middle schoolers.
Yes. Oh my gosh! Because they have no filter.
Yeah, and
Cruel.
It's just the emotions are just up and down.
All the hormones, no, it's wild.
Half of every class was just getting everybody to an emotional stable place to receive information.
Yeah, the wild, wild west out there. Yeah, no. So thank you to all you teachers of all the youngins, because goodness, did you ever have like a job, like how I said I hated retail? Did you have a hated job ever, or no?
There was a brief moment, I didn't discuss this, where I worked temp agency jobs, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
And the one main one I got in was working just a file for a doctor's office, just filing their paperwork.
Okay.
And I could not.
No.
That kind of when you mentioned people.
Yep.
And you're just in a dark room by yourself with piles of paper.
I know people. You're a nightmare.
Yeah, like I couldn't. It was just I couldn't imagine doing that every day for 6 to 8 hours. Yeah. And people do.
I know.
Now it's different. Now it's more digital, but still same thing. How do you just sit in a room in front of a computer?
I know.
Talking to nobody for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. I feel like I work from home, but I have, Zoom is the new in-person, for the most part. So I am home alone all day with my cat and my dog, but I'm on meetings, not all day, but I'm on meetings 3-4 hours out of the day.
Yeah.
So, and I'm interacting with people that I like, and my company is pretty casual that way. So I feel like I get my human interaction that way. Do you think that would suffice for you, or not even?
That would have been okay.
Yeah. It was, but the temp, like the dark room cave.
I was just like, is this where people go to die? I don't know, like,
I'm lonely.
Like, I can't, like, after an hour, I'm like, really? Just doing it again?
Just do it. You probably knew your alphabet so good. Because
I could have been singing the song out loud, nobody would have noticed. And I was in the back room, A, B, C, D, E, F, O, A, B, C.
Writing different arrangements of the alphabet song. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Do you have a like, because you kind of express what you hate, right?
Oh,
but what, is there like a moment or favorite thing or favorite,
gosh,
favorite boss or a favorite person you worked with?
That is a great question. I don't know. I feel like I definitely have had bosses that I hated. I don't know that I could pinpoint a favorite boss, But I know that my favorite bosses were the ones who encouraged me to take ownership over my role and didn't micromanage me.
Yeah.
And because that's what allowed me to grow and learn. And so any leader I ever had that did that was always, you know, at the top of my list. And I've been lucky enough to have a decent handful. So I have felt supported and guided for the majority of my like professional career, not my 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old career, you know, when you're working Little Caesars and Cold Stone.
Exactly. The entry-level job.
Yeah, exactly.
So funny.
Elaine,
Mm-hmm.
do you hear?
I do believe.
Papa, can you hear me?
I sang that.
Did
recently.
you?
Yeah, at a karaoke anyway.
Oh
So it's just a little weird that that's what you just said to me. Are you a Yentl fan?
I know.
That's what that's from. Did
Yeah,
you
I know.
that?
Yeah.
No? Okay,
Right.
anyways. But do you hear it?
Do you hear it?
We interrupt this program to bring you a very important rambling. Stay tuned.
Elaine,
Yes?
do you have a rambling for us?
I do have a rambling, and it is about this lovely blanket. Those of you who are watching on the video can see it. Those who are listening, I'm going to explain it to you. It is a crocheted throw blanket. It has squares, and it's the
Why was that so
wine-
funny?
I
It
don't
has
know.
squares.
That is crocheted together to make a blanket. But it is wine-colored burgundy, forest green, and cream. And my mom made this for me
Oh.
when I was in high school. I had this in my
love
high
that.
school. Not in my high school. In my
I took it with
room,
me.
not
Okay,
my
Linus.
bedroom. In my bedroom growing up. So this was my blanket. And then my mom, this is a funny little story. My mom started to make me a full comforter for college to bring to college with me. But she never finished it.
No.
And she like halfway finished it, put all the pieces in like a bag and gave me the bag with the pieces, which I still have.
She said DIY, Elaine.
So like, I just got tired, so here you go.
Oh my gosh, I love that. She said, do it yourself.
She's like, I'm just gonna finish it.
So you never, it's still in a bag?
The pieces that she gave me are still in the bag.
Elaine!
And I have it in my garage. Like, no joke.
At this point, I want you to never build that.
I know.
It needs to stay in squares in a bag in the garage. It can never be built.
But
Do you understand me?
I know, but when I pass, nobody's gonna know what it is. My nieces
I
and
will.
nephews are
I'll
gonna be
tell
like,
them.
what is this? You'll
Say,
tell-
put a post-it that says Ask Georgie.
Mom's gonna finish this one day.
Yes.
She just turned 80. She's
I
never
love
gonna
it.
finish
She's
this.
not.
And she can't see, so it would be.
Oh.
We razz her about it.
That's
She's
so
just
sweet.
I'd be like, okay, Mom, finish it now. That's mean. That is awful. She
That's
would
so
laugh at that
funny.
though, so
Yeah.
you know that I'm not being mean. But,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just wanted to talk about this blanket.
I love it.
I've had it forever.
Yeah. That's a lot. It has made it a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
I love.
That's it.
All
Done.
all your squares.
All my
It's a
squares.
blanket and it has squares. Okay.
And I never learned how to crochet, so I can't even finish
No?
a blanket myself.
I got you. I can teach
You
you.
know how to crochet?
Yeah, mattress stitch.
Will you finish
Put
my
them all
blanket?
together? I can.
I even have the yarn.
Do you really? Oh my gosh, she gave you the yarn
She
too?
was just like,
She really
here.
said.
She's like, I'm not doing this.
She really set you up for success here, Elaine. That's what I'm seeing. You were set up for success and you didn't take it.
She just said the thoughts would count.
Yeah. And you know what? Fair, Mom.
She did make these big pillows, which I still have.
Oh,
They're the bigger
matching?
and all.
Nice.
She was gonna have the full matching set. She just made it through the throw of the pillows and halfway through the comforter and quit.
She's like, I'm over this. I'm done with this.
She's like really tired.
I love
Forget
that. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Okay,
Rambling
well,
over.
Rambling over. I know, we should have like a little like.
And done.
Yeah,
Scene.
exactly. Ding, 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 ding.
Maybe in our next episode.
Yes, we'll have a little bit there for us. But Elaine, back to work.
Okay.
I want to know. I know. Okay. You had mentioned while we were talking about this, well, you know, setting up this episode,
Okay.
you made a comment, and I was like, oh, I'd love to talk about that.
I forgot already.
Huh?
I forgot what I said.
About how,
Already.
because you're a teacher, you've worked with so many,
Oh.
and continue to work with so many different generations, right? And that
is very true.
you've noticed a difference in work ethic and
Yeah.
and such. So tell me more about that.
Well, and this is not, I don't want this to come across as negative or elevating one generation over another generation or, but I've been teaching for 22 years. When I first started teaching, I had predominantly grade school level, so high school or younger students, private students for voice and piano, and they were very, they took their time to learn things. They were always prepared. They always practiced. They always understood that it took time and investment into things.
What level was this again, sorry?
This would have been high school and younger.
Okay.
I'm talking about, because I do also teach adults, but adults are different because they're all different generations. So I'm just speaking to just this segment of my clients.
Yeah.
And they I don't want to use this word because I really don't mean it. It's going to come across wrong, so I'm not going to use it. But they
now we'll have to wonder forever. I know. Way to build suspense.
But they understood the investment of time into things, and I have noticed that over the years that has changed.
Okay.
And now generation. So I guess what generation am I teaching now? If I'm grade school, is that generation Z?
Yeah.
Right.
Guess, yeah.
That it's not that they're disrespectful, but they don't have an understanding that it takes time and investment into learning, especially something like a musical instrument, which could take years to become proficient at it. They ask me, "I want to play like you." I'm like, "Okay, well, you know how long I've been playing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Twice as long as you've been alive." You know?
Yeah.
I've been playing.
Literally.
And their eyes get like saucers. They're like, "Oh, it's forever." You know? But it's just that sense that take your time. Eventually, you will get to your goal.
Yeah.
Just take your time with it. Also, that they don't often come in prepared, and they don't often come in, with that same kind of like energy to invest into it. And I'm not saying it as a negative, but there is a contrast.
Yeah, you notice a difference.
Do you think that you could shed light on why you think there's a difference? Being in between.
Yeah.
Those.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like millennials are in such an interesting position because I do feel like we are that in-between kid that I feel like we touched worlds with Gen X, right? Like I still remember dial-up internet, and I remember not cell phones like barely existing and stuff like that. I remember burning CDs, but then at the same time we're so quick to learn how to use technology, not as quick as Gen Z because they're like rapid fire, but we were the tech whizzes of our generation because that's when it all started to come out. And I think what I've noticed is more recently with technology and even with the media that we consume, there's been this like instant gratification.
I was just about to use that
right?
word, yeah.
All, like mindset where everything and just attention span is just shorter. So long form content, even like this podcast wouldn't do well with the younger generation possibly, right? Or maybe it would, who knows? But with other generations like ours, it probably would do better. Yeah. So, and it's just because of that shift. I don't know. It's been so interesting to watch. Yeah.
And even parents are different. Like parents were, and again, I'm saying this, I don't mean this in a negative way, but like, parents disciplined much more stricter.
Yeah.
20 years ago when I was teaching.
Yeah.
Where they would be like, I'm going to make sure they practice. I'm going to make sure they do this.
Yeah.
And now generation, sometimes I get parents that turn around and put it on me and be like, why aren't they practicing? They're asking me. And
That's
I'm
so
like,
interesting.
well, I'm not home with you.
Right, yeah.
How do I know? I can't.
I don't live with
practice.
you.
You're like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or now parents will ask the students, the younger kids, they'll turn around and ask their 6-7-year-old, well, what time do you feel like doing lessons? Right. I'm like, my mom would have never.
She's like, you're doing lessons.
Like, this is when you're doing it. This is when you're showing up. It was according to the mom's schedule. Now it's like, it's interesting to see the parents defer to kids' opinions far more than especially when I was growing up. Yeah. Which blows my mind sometimes.
I feel like there definitely has to be a happy medium somewhere because I feel like I've seen a lot about I've had a lot of videos and read a lot of articles on like different parenting styles almost and have seen I feel like there has to be a happy medium because I feel like there is something to be said for making a child feel like they have a little bit of control over their own life.
True. Yeah.
And just like that they have the ability to make a decision. Or I don't know. I feel like there is something to be said for that, and it would be cool to not always be told the because I said so response just because someone's a child. In my opinion, doesn't mean that because I said so is an answer. And at least for me, my opinion. I don't know what is your opinion on
I don't think I really necessarily have a strong opinion in that regard. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
How to see firsthand the changes.
Absolutely.
In parenting.
Yeah.
Versus my personal experiences plus what I've seen now, teaching 2 decades. God, teaching 2 decades.
I know. She's like, I'm old.
Just like come out of my mouth. I remember in 10 years going, oh, I've been teaching so long, and now it's like 22 years. Oh God,
it's been 84 years.
It's
from Titanic.
Has it? Oh, I didn't get the reference.
Yeah, I know, because you're a Gen X.
No, I've seen that movie.
Yeah, but not the way that millennials have seen it.
I don't understand the difference.
Exactly. I don't know. I just feel like it's like.
Ironically, I didn't watch it. Ironically.
I don't know. I just feel like it's like a really intense. Like I don't know. It's like a very core memory for me.
I was dating the guy that made me ditch college last year when that came out. I remember going with him. I was in college.
I was literally in middle school.
Not figuratively in middle school.
Yeah, I know.
Literally.
I don't know.
Yeah, you would have been.
Yeah, I know I was, because I watched it, and I remember I was with my grandpa and my dad at the movie theaters, and that really awkward scene came up, and I was literally like 9, or however old I was, and I was like, oh my God, I'm
Grandpa,
so
why is the car so sweaty?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is it
so uncomfortable? But the rest of the movie was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I guess
what I was saying.
I was just saying that I feel like they're like, because
Yeah.
I agree with you. I feel like there could be like a happy medium, right, between like you do whatever you want whenever you want. That might cause a little bit of like less of a work, like less of a drive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And with a little like that mixed with a little bit of discipline, a happy medium I think would be good. But that brings me. I'm wondering about. Since we're talking about balance, work-life balance. I know. I'm very excited because I know you. So you don't got to tell me. Tell the people, Elaine. How do you feel about work-life balance?
I'm terrible at it. Again, when you own your own business, you're never not working.
I mean, that's fair. I feel like there's definitely something to be said for you in that aspect because you own your own business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different because especially... before COVID, I had an assistant and I had people that were helping me. I used to own a theater and a venue, small space, like a 50-seat space where I used to produce shows and things of that nature. Of course, with COVID, that kiboshed that, and I let it go because financially it just wasn't worth holding onto the overhead.
Yeah.
So because of that, but I did maintain my teaching studio. So I let my theater go, but I kept my studio, commercial space, my teaching space. And I let my staff go. So being back to myself is just, when you're the customer service rep, you're the person, you're the teacher, you're the scheduler, you're the, putting out the fires person, you're the person determining how much to charge, how much not to charge. You're dealing with inflation, you're dealing with, so you're always working. Yeah. And so as of recently, I've been trying to backpedal as Georgie makes comments because she's heard many conversations of me going, I'm quitting, or I'm going to let half my students go. I can't take it. It's too much. And then next week, I haven't done anything. So I'm balanced in my head, but literally it is not very balanced. But I'm getting there. It takes time. Anyways.
Well, and you acknowledge, right, that there could be better work-life balance there.
Absolutely.
When you didn't work for yourself, did you find yourself having trouble setting boundaries and saying no? Did you ever feel overworked in any of your other jobs? No? No,
I would say no. I think that no. But I've also been doing this so long, it's hard to make
It's hard to remember the 1800s.
Shut up. I hate you. But the last time I worked for somebody was like 2000.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
1999, 2000. That's when I had moved. I was living in Oklahoma for a few years, moved back to Florida, and what gave me the seed money? My mom backed into my car.
Oh my gosh.
I had one of those Saturns, and it had I call them Rubbermaid cards because they're made out of rubber. And they didn't use to dent, but she dented it. She took a big old chunk out of the side of the car. And instead of making an insurance claim, I kept the chunk, and she just gave me money to fix it.
Okay.
But instead,
I thought you were gonna say you sued her.
No,
that's why you got this.
Yeah, I sued my mom.
I was like, oh my God, Elaine, you're such a savage.
She's like, that's right, Mom. No, she wanted to just pay for it, so she gave me I don't know, then whatever, $2,000. It doesn't sound like much now, but then it was enough for me to pay my bills for 2-3 months to just coast and build the studio up, and then that's what I did.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine a world now where $2,000 could let you coast for a couple months? Oh my, that literally wouldn't even pay my rent for 1 month. Holy crap, dude.
Because you're talking early 2000s.
Oh my God, what I wouldn't give.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't give. Oh my God.
But that's what I ate ramen. Like I really low key cheaped myself, like reduced myself to nothing because I wanted to work full time teaching. Yeah. And that's what gave me the push. So,
yeah. And you did it.
And I did it. And so, but that's where I'm like I think my mentality of work and career is such a different viewpoint. Than somebody who's worked for the man. People because I work for myself, so like I'm such a jerk to work for. Yeah.
It's like I hate my boss.
And the mentality when you work for yourself too is that if you don't get vacation days, you don't get sick days, you don't get insurance, you don't get 401k, you don't get any of that. So you have to always be thinking, okay, am I making enough for my retirement? Yeah. Am I also making enough money to take days off?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When you don't work a week, that means not only do you, like you're going on vacation, but take a vacation for a week, great. So vacation costs this amount of money, but I'm also factoring how much money I'm not making teaching that week. Yep. So can I take the hit on my income as well as the cost of the trip?
Yeah. No, that makes a huge difference. You're so right.
It changes your thought process.
Yeah, because I've only ever worked for the man my whole life. Whoever. It's always been a man, though, obviously. Because
that's
America. And I feel like it's funny because I've watched the people around me struggle with work-life balance, people boasting that they work, that they've been there for 10, 12 hours. Yeah. And I was always like, okay, it's 7 hours and 59 minutes and I'm leaving in a minute. Does anybody need anything? Like I've always been that person. Yeah. And I've always, I think what I struggled with was not finding work-life balance because I always had it, but was asserting work-life balance and also just not being ashamed because you kind of feel pressured in those environments to run that little race with everybody. Like, oh yeah, I've worked so much too and so long too and blah, blah, blah. So it really took a while for me to be able to be confident in my boundaries with work-life balance. But I think I finally found that to the point where now I feel like I help and almost coach other people sometimes in finding that. Because I'm like, no, there's almost no job out here that's worth your mental health. Like, at least when you're working, at least in my experience, when you're working for the man, I am replaceable. I'm not saying that my bosses and maybe my company doesn't value my input, but you can value me as an employee, but that doesn't mean that, like, if I were to keel over and die from being overworked, that you wouldn't just replace me. That I'm not replaceable. So, I don't know. I feel like I've gone through my journey with that, but that's why I am where I am right now, where I'm just, my job right now is what fits in my lifestyle because what I'm doing outside of work is so much more important to me. Like this podcast. You know what I mean? Like if I was still working entertainment, it would have been so much harder to find the time to do all of this. And these are the things that fuel me and give me life and bring me joy. So right now I have a job that's going to allow me to do that. And I'm super grateful.
And I think there's room for all these perspectives and all these ways.
Absolutely.
We were talking a little bit before, too, the podcast about how, in my generation, when people asked you who you were or what you did, it was what you worked and your career was such an identifier. It was almost the first thing out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? That was always the first thing you're asked. And so much of your identity is wrapped into your career and into what you're quote unquote doing. Yeah. And then you had said how it's very different for you, how that's not the most important thing. That's not, you don't feel like those are the identifiers for you.
Yeah. No, I don't. And it came up because when we were filming our first episode, we were like, should we introduce ourselves and what should we talk about? And then, I think you had mentioned work, what we do.
Work and I
was like, I don't really care to mention what I do for work. That's not. But I feel like for you, it's so much different because I don't know. I feel like when you run your own business, exactly. It's not only are you running your own business, but you're running something that is your passion. Yeah. And so it definitely ties into who you are. Like if I were, I don't know, running a horse rescue or something, or if I were a famous rock star, then I'd probably want to mention what I'm doing. Yeah. But I literally just work in communications.
For a minute, I totally that for a minute. A horse rescue.
I mean that too. But listen, them too. But yeah, in those instances, maybe I would want to mention what I'm doing. But because I don't know, that's right now, I don't know.
Well, now you're just saying, I'm Elaine Georgie. We're sincerely Elaine Georgie. That's what I do. I'm a podcast extraordinaire.
That's true. And I can just say I'm basically a famous podcaster, so
Yeah.
you can just. Here's your autograph. Oh, you didn't want my autograph. You were just asking me to sign for my pizza. Thank you. Whoops. Elaine.
I'm like an Uber Eats driver.
Uber Eats driver.
Give me a good review.
Oh my
Like,
god.
no.
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 my
Anyways, we're digressing.
Elaine, do you?
I do hear.
The train is coming down the track.
I can't remember the words.
What is that from? Dumbo or something, right? Casey Jr.?
It's one of the. I don't have no. Anyways,
I hear it.
We interrupt this program to bring you a very important rambling. Stay tuned.
I have a rambling.
you do.
Yeah.
What is
And
your
I'm
rambling?
frustrated.
Uh-oh. Hold your horse. lady.
Yeah. I am fed up with airlines.
Oh.
I remember when you could just book a flight and they would book you a seat and you would bring your carry-on and then you would board the plane and fly.
That easy?
That easy. And now there is a fee attached to every freaking thing. You want to breathe air on the plane? $5.50. You want to blink 7 times on the plane? 25 cents per blink. Like, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there are some airlines now, did you know this? They don't even assign you a seat anymore. The entire flight is a free-for-all. Did you know that?
Isn't that like Southwest?
Yes, I think it is. And you just no one gets assigned a seat and you just first come, first serve, you sit. What? What kind of middle school's yellow bus school madness is that? What? Absolutely not. I want to know where I'm sitting.
I agree.
And I want to not pay for it. I want to sit in an aisle seat. They're even charging for the back seats, the back rows. Yes, it's incredible.
I could rant with you, but this is your rambling.
I know. That's really, no, please, rant. If you got something to say it. But really, that's what I just wanted to rant about. I'm done with airlines. They have made it so, they've made it just so much less affordable to fly. Because you pay, let's say, $350 for a ticket. But then you have to pay, some of them don't even include carry-on. Some of them do, some of them, that's the other thing that drives me crazy, is that it's not consistent across the board with airlines.
Yeah, you have to double check.
Yes, because some will charge you $50 for a carry-on, some it's included. Some you can only bring a personal item. Some you can't bring either. Yeah. Some, so it's, you pay $300 for a ticket and you end up spending, I don't know, $450 by the time it's all said and done. If you want to, choose your seat, bring a carry-on, I don't know, whatever else they're charging you for. But it's, oh my gosh, it's a nightmare. And that is my rambling for the day. Thank you.
See. But I agree.
Right?
I'm doing my fair share of traveling this year, and it's a nightmare.
I feel like that's the thing too, because I'm working from home. I'm traveling more than I ever have because I have the opportunity to. And so it's just, I'm just very aware of the change. And I hate it.
And no words.
No like words. I love them. All right, I have one final question for you, Elaine.
Yes.
And it might get heavy, it might not, I don't know. But have you ever, going back to the topic at hand, have you ever encountered or anything like that, any prejudice at work? Well, I guess you run your own business, so how could you, right?
No, but I will say when I worked at, because I have been in some workplaces, but this is rolling back.
Yeah.
It was not prejudice, but it was where I called out a manager that was doing something wrong or incorrectly.
Yeah.
And because of that, and I called it out. Well, okay, there's more to the story, but anyways, there's our manager, and then there's the regional managers, right? So regional managers had come in to kind of see how the stores were running, how things were going on.
Yeah.
They gather all of the employees up and say, how, what's the work environment? What are things that are going on?
Yeah.
So me and my mouthy self goes,
Lord.
I
have something to say.
I have something I would like to say about home manager. And apparently it was a big enough offense that he got written up over it and got in trouble over it. But everybody agreed with me, and everybody was glad that I had said something, because it was something that was significantly impeding the office environment. It was significant. Yeah. Okay. Now, that manager never treated me well.
Oh, yeah. He retaliated.
Oh, major retaliation.
Dang.
And, stood in the way of any kind of advances or anything, to the point that I transferred to a different office.
I was going to ask. I was like, were you able to overcome it or have a conversation? Or,
no.
I feel like with those people, sometimes you just can't reason. If they're acting that petty, And that's the mindset that they have.
Yeah.
They're almost, there's no reasoning with them half the time.
After I transferred a few months later, he got fired.
No way.
Yeah, he should have got left, which he needed to. But
I was going to say he probably should have gotten fired much earlier.
He should have, but it's just like anything, sometimes companies have to go through their P's and Q's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before they can do that. So,
yeah.
But that's the only, and I wouldn't even really call that prejudice. It just was retaliation.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't even exist. People need to just do their job.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Do you have a circumstance?
I have, so, and to this day, I can't really know, but I was passed up for a role a couple times when I worked at one of my entertainment jobs for management, and I'll never forget two interviews, like two what would they be called? 2 rejections in a row, I guess we'll call them, right? They were telling me that they wanted me to look the part. They wanted me to look the part more. Dress for the role that you want, not the role that you're in. But I was wearing, dresses to work. I was wearing, business like pants and a blouse with flats. And I would wear my hair. I feel like this is going to end up being important, but I was wearing my hair in my naturally curly state. My hair is naturally very curly and mane, wild mane. That's how it grows out of my head. Yeah. And that's allowed. Curly hair. Yeah. And, but I was always dressed well, you know what I mean? I always dressed business casual to work. Yeah. And the people that were getting promoted were wearing sneakers and leggings and t-shirts. And so it didn't bother me that those people were getting promoted, but I think what I would get confused about sometimes was the look the part, because I can't remember exactly the way that it was delivered, because at this point it was so long ago, but I just remember in that moment feeling like, is it because I'm bigger, because I'm plus size, that maybe I look disheveled to you? Do you have this like preconceived notion that bigger people are like messier looking, and so I have to put in extra effort, which I have noticed that just in my regular life, right? Like a straight-sized person can wear the sweatpants and sweatshirt that I'm wearing today and be perceived completely differently than I would be perceived. Yeah. And so it was only after getting that feedback so many times, and I wish I could remember exactly the way that it was worded that made me think that, because I remember having that thought almost like, it was like a light bulb the second time I was getting that feedback, because I was like, I wear, like, I was, not that you should have to, but I was wearing makeup every day to work. You know, I was trying to put in that effort. Yeah. I was wearing all the business casual stuff. I was like, I don't know. Yeah. I took their note and I was like, I don't know what else I could possibly do differently when you have people over here getting promoted wearing t-shirts, leggings, and sneakers. So what is it like, I couldn't, and I can't know for sure, so I'm not saying that is the case, but it felt that way.
I think you need to trust your intuition.
Right? Yeah. I thought so too.
Our intuition will tell us.
Yeah.
And that makes me angry.
I know.
I'm like, what?
Me too. Me too. I mean, I ended up getting promoted finally, like after like 3 or 4 times. Part of me was also like, did they just not have any feedback? And so they were looking for feedback to give me, but I'm just like, but that's not the right, that's not right either. Yeah. I'd much rather they say, like, we went with a candidate that had better experience, but you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get there. Or something.
That makes more sense.
That makes much more sense. Mm-hmm. You don't need to give me feedback that's not real. And that's why I think, like you said, trust my intuition, because I was getting that vibe and that feeling.
And it just makes you feel yucky.
Yeah, like so yucky.
Did you, this is kind of maybe a pointed question, but because you mentioned your hair being natural, like, were people that were being hired over you of a certain demographic, of a certain race, of a certain...
No. I mean, yes, I guess, just because... Okay. I don't know. They were all white. I don't know what to...
That's an answer.
Yeah, exactly. But, I don't know. But yeah, so could have been 2 as well, obviously. So I don't know. It could have been,
You got my Muppet growl.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things that I guess I'll never know. But I had those thoughts, and I saw the differences in the feedback being given, and it was just very interesting.
Well, it's obviously stuck with you.
Absolutely has.
Yeah.
Absolutely has. That specific scenario, too. Because I don't know. It was so, I think it was one of the first times I think I had experienced that, like, in the workplace. Or that I had noticed it in the workplace. Because I had noticed it outside, like, in my personal life, but never at work. So it was just really interesting to be like, oh, at work, too? Okay, damn. Like, and especially in entertainment, where you feel like entertainment should be much more accepting. But I guess actually I would say, I don't know.
That's a yes and a no.
Yes, exactly. Yes and a no. Because maybe like demographically, as far as like, you know, the theater community wants to be more inclusive when it comes to cultures and race and, you know, sexual orientation, but size is so different. Yeah.
And that I witnessed, not personally.
Yeah.
But I am very often on the tier receiving end when my clients of certain size come back and they get overlooked or they don't get the job, and some of them are blatantly told because they're too big or too this and too that, and I'm like, you know, what do you say to these? How do you console somebody when they're right? They're right. Like it's unfair. It's unfair. It's unfair. Yeah. They're in a circumstance that they cannot change. Yeah. Yeah. And then people turn around and say, oh, you could lose weight. I'm like,
well, that's not the case for everybody either.
It's not the case for everybody. And there's different circumstances for everyone. Yeah. And there's some women who are taller or thicker framed and what have you that they are just, to me, like, they're just as deserving to be the princesses as ones who aren't. Yeah. But, you know, it's just sad. I think that is still a threshold that is very much having to be overcome in the performing industry. Yeah. And it's 100%. Yeah. And it's so interesting work, because obviously I feel like a lot of our work is from the entertainment lens. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see that. Yeah. That difference. Because I would be curious to know what somebody, I mean, I guess I've worked for the man most of my life too, but the man in entertainment. Yeah. So it'd be really interesting to hear the thoughts of somebody who hasn't. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't worked in entertainment, or even if you have, we want to know. Tell us what your experiences have been like working in your workplace. How's your work-life balance? What's your favorite job been? We want to know. I would love to do a show where we just read people's replies. Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. Yeah. Okay, we're going to make that happen. So check us out on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, @SincerelyThePodcast if you like hanging out with us. Or if you like us but can't get enough of us, you can check us out on Patreon, also @SincerelyThePodcast, and you might get some extra goodies and extra footage for a little subscription. Until then, Elaine. Yes. Would you like to tell the people anything, or shall we just give a nice little princess wave goodbye? Yeah, Prince, because we are deserving. And yes, and because you're going to get a Disney annual pass.